Hi, it's Greg Collins of Substitute Teachers Lounge podcast, beginning year number 2. And we have special guest Sam Matson. He was a semi-finalist on the Jeopardy Teachers Tournament. Kids, are you excited about that?
Substitute Teachers Lounge.
All right, guys, welcome back. I want to quickly remind you that today's podcast, you can see the video version of that on our YouTube channel, Substitute Teachers Lounge. You can email us at gregcollinssubstitute@gmail.com. And I want to quickly mention that our Facebook page, Substitute Teachers Lounge, keeps growing, but I've got an event posted on there for July 8th. 2020 that I want all of you to be a part of. I'm trying to set up a Zoom meeting and have as many people as possible. I'm not sure how many people have seen that yet because there's only a couple of people signed up, but go to our Facebook page, Substitute Teachers Lounge. We want you to be a part of a live Zoom meeting. We want at least 10 to 20 people on there, and then we'll incorporate that into our next podcast episode. So go to the Facebook page, Substitute Teachers Lounge, look for that event, and then mark that you're going. All right, guys, Substitute Teachers Lounge is proud to introduce Sam Matson. I hope you recognize that name because he was on TV here recently. That's what we're going to talk about. Sam, how you doing today?
Doing all right. How are you?
Good. Excellent. Sam was a semi-finalist on the Jeopardy Teachers Tournament this year, so I was excited to be able to connect with him. We'll talk about that here in a minute, but Sam, first of all, starting out, why don't you just tell us your education background, your career, what made you decide to be a teacher?
Well, I've got kind of an interesting path, I guess, to becoming a teacher. I'm about to enter my 6th year as a high school teacher. I taught a year as an adjunct instructor at Tennessee Tech University prior to that, and I taught a year while I was a grad student in English. I have degrees from Tennessee Tech, and I have a Bachelor of Science in History, Bachelor of Arts in Spanish, and a Master of Arts in English. I kind of got lucky as a teacher or getting a teaching job. I didn't have a traditional certification. So I was an emergency hire and then did well enough that I got to keep going. But ultimately, probably what drew me to becoming a teacher, I've always liked working with kids and students, but I coached soccer for a long time. And I was the soccer coach at Cookeville High School for many years, actually, before I even started teaching. And so to a certain extent, teaching and coaching kind of went hand in hand. So that was a main draw to me becoming a teacher as well.
Right. Good. Now, in honor of knowing, I did my research and knew you went to Tennessee Tech. So I don't know if you can see my Eastern Kentucky shirt.
Okay.
Tennessee Tech is another good Ohio Valley Conference school, so we compete quite often against each other. I've got a few years on you, as you can tell, but other than that, it's OVC is still, a nice medium college size competitive conference. So I went to school in Eastern Kentucky back in the late 70s, early 80s when their football team was pretty dominant, but it's been a long time since that's been the case. What made you want to be a contestant in the teachers tournament? How'd that come up?
Well, so I did quiz bowl in high school, and I've always enjoyed that. I did it in college for a couple of years as well. And I mean, I've always just enjoyed trivia. I don't own a TV actually, so I don't really watch Jeopardy.
Okay.
So I got an email though that they were having the online test, so I took it. I did well enough, and I just sort of kept going along with it, and wound up on the show. So I auditioned.
Nice.
I had an audition in Nashville, and that was last May, I think, and I might have been the only person from that audition who got to participate on the show. And I mean, obviously now they're not filming new episodes for the time being. So
Right, right. I'm trying to remember, were those episodes recorded in February?
that's correct. Yeah,
They were recorded in February. I knew
yeah,
it was several months ago.
yeah, in
Right.
the last week of February that we recorded ours.
Okay. Yeah, I'm already envious because I've tried to, call the Jeopardy numbers and compete too. And I haven't had any luck, even though I like to watch it every night. What process did you have to follow? I mean, did you have to go through a series of tests, or did they just base it on trying out and then what you were just talking about? Was it a series of things or just one thing?
Yeah. So initially, the online test, I took that in, I think, January or February of 2019. And then I heard back from them a month or two later. And I think if you did well enough on that, then you could
Gotcha.
attend an audition. They invited you to do that. And at the audition, we took either one or two tests. I don't remember exactly, but I think you had to do well enough on those, and then you had to go up and do sort of a practice competition where you're, buzzing in with a couple other people, and
Right.
they kind of evaluated how you did on that, and if they were comfortable putting you on camera and things like that. So
Okay.
it was really those two things, and then waiting for the phone call. So
Cool.
yeah.
How long did you have to wait after you did that before the phone call happened?
So I auditioned at the end of May in 2019, and I got the phone call in January, the middle of January.
Oh, okay. You mentioned May before. I hadn't made the connection that the phone call took that long to happen too. So then after the phone call, it was pretty quick, wasn't it?
It was about a month.
About a month? Okay.
Yeah. So I had a little bit of time to try to do some studying and last minute cramming. But yeah, it was pretty quick after that.
Okay. Now, I have shared this with Sam already, but one of the reasons I chose him is that he was the only one that mentioned a substitute teacher. He mentioned the lady that was subbing for him while he was on the tournament. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Okay, yeah. So my substitute while I was on Jeopardy was Carolyn Hawkins. She's a retired teacher from Putnam County Schools and at Cookeville High School. I actually never had her as a teacher myself, but she was my quiz bowl coach in high school. And
Right.
so on Jeopardy, one of the things that they ask you, they get some tidbits about you, and then Alex will choose one and talk about it. So the one he chose was Carolyn Hawkins being my, sort of my inspirational teacher in high school. And
Right.
when I answer that question, I honestly couldn't think of like one specific teacher that really, really stood out aside from her, even though I never had her in a traditional sense. But she really inspired me to learn and to study hard for academic team and just for my classes in general. And she still subs to this day. She retired 3 or 4 years ago or so, and she hasn't wanted to, I guess, go away completely. So she's around, and she's a wonderful sub.
That's awesome. I love that story. And of course, most teachers will tell you that they love the retired teachers because, they already know the routine and how to deal with the kids and all that kind of thing. Another lady I'll mention is, when I heard Sam mention his substitute teacher, I tried to search his name. And the first instance I found of it was on a Facebook post by somebody named Molly. And it turned out that I actually have a mutual friend with Molly that attended college with her. How do you know Molly?
Well, Molly and I actually went to high school together. We graduated in the same class. And we went off and did the college thing and kind of settled into our careers. And then we realized we were teaching at the same school together. So we saw each other occasionally through that. We teach she doesn't teach there anymore, but our school is very big. So you often don't see a lot of people in the building. on a regular basis. But she wound up inheriting the academic team. So she started coaching that. And I just asked if she needed any help, and she was happy to let me help her. So we worked together with the academic team for a couple of years. And
Cool.
so that's how Molly and I are friends.
That's cool. I like that story. A couple of specific Jeopardy questions. First of all, more of a behind the scenes thing. I know they make you, I guess, sign something that you can't say anything until after the tournament is over. How strict do they make it? How do they present that to you? What do they tell you you can't do? If you can talk about it.
So there is a pretty intense non-disclosure. You can't talk about it. I don't remember the exact terms. There was a ton of fine print, but I think the gist of it was, don't be a jerk. Like, a lot of people really enjoy watching Jeopardy, and you don't want to ruin it for people.
Right.
So you couldn't talk about how you did really. I was okay telling people I didn't embarrass myself. Which, doesn't tell them anything specifically. It doesn't say whether I won or lost. But I guess it did say I didn't do badly, which I didn't win, but I also was happy with how I did.
Yeah.
I was comfortable saying that, but saying how I finished or anything that I buzzed in and answered, I just kind of didn't say anything about that. So.
Okay. One thing you made me think of as you were talking, what did your students think about all this, what was going on? Because that's a long time to keep secrets from students.
Oh yeah, they on a regular basis they would try to trick me into answering about how I did. So I had to be on my toes with that, and they were pretty clever about it. I had to give them some props. Just for their efforts and trying to get information out of me. But I'm pretty sure I kept it a secret. So.
Right. That's cool. I noticed you mentioned a little bit about preparation that you had to do. Did you involve the students with that at all? Did they help you prepare at all?
Yeah, there were a couple days, like we would finish, there may be a day where we finished early or with, what we're doing. And so, we would just kind of go over some things that I was studying to try to brush up on. So we had, they would ask me some questions as well here and there, just like some stuff that they knew that they thought I should know, some pop culture stuff. And
okay.
Which I didn't really learn all that well. So.
So you didn't know who Billie Eilish was if a question like that came up, I guess.
Billie Eilish? No. I know
right.
who Billie Eilish is. I honestly don't know if I can tell you the name of one of her songs, but if you put her image up if you put her likeness up, I could
sure.
That is Billie Eilish. So.
If there's anybody currently that you'll recognize, it's her. I substitute teach middle school and high school mainly, but mainly middle school. So I learned about all those. And I was such a music geek when I was younger. I try to keep up on it. Not so much that I like it. Same reason I still listen to 50s music. It's not that I really like it that much. I'm just so fascinated by what music trends were in those eras. So I've always enjoyed doing that. All right. One question that I've always wanted to ask, because I know every teacher that was in that tournament was super intelligent, and that a lot of those questions came down to how fast you were on your buzzer.
Oh, yeah.
So did you miss out on some of the questions because somebody beat you at the buzzer?
Especially in my second round, in the semifinal round, where I was up against the eventual champion,
right.
Ben Henry, and the other contestant, Lauren Schneider-Lipton. They were both just on it on the buzzer, and I knew probably, I would say 80 to 90% of the questions or the answers, but I just couldn't get in on the buzzer. And I can't say I didn't miss any that round. So the ones I did buzz in on, I was able to answer correctly. But yeah, I mean, it's all about the buzzer speed, and I would say the majority of the contestants in any Jeopardy round are probably going to know 80 to 90% of the things that are asked.
Right.
The truly great players are the ones who can get in on the buzzer, and that's as soon as Alex is done talking. So
Right.
it's
Right.
that timing, and yeah, it's hard.
I'm old enough to remember back when Art Fleming was a coach the host. And back then they could they could hit the buzzer as soon as the question was revealed. It didn't even have to be read yet. And then they changed that rule. Now, did the Jeopardy guys let you practice with buzzers?
Oh yeah. We had a practice round. So I guess before each round, we had an opportunity to practice just to get a feel for it. So there was that opportunity, yes.
Okay. Did you get a chance when the episodes aired to watch them with your students?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
They aired at the end of May.
That's right.
Even had we not been shut down for COVID, we would have been out of school at that point. So that was a little disappointing. I mean, well, the 2020 has been such a wacky year.
Oh my goodness.
Had we not been closed down, had we not been dealing with a pandemic, it would have been, I would have been sad had I not gotten to watch it with my students, because I mean, they were involved,
Right.
they were in on it. And so, and I don't know, I like them, and I definitely miss them when everything did get shut down. So
Okay.
yeah.
Do I remember that you're an English teacher? Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. All right. You probably haven't, because of the pandemic. I was going to ask you if you'd talked to any of the students since the airing either, but I'm sure that's the same answer probably, isn't it?
Well, so I've been using Discord to the like that.
Right.
And, I've had some quiz bowl practices over that. So I've worked with some of my academic team kids with that. I've also watched, I've had like a sort of informal film club where we've watched a few movies via that platform as well. So I have talked to a few of my students. We also actually had an in-person graduation a couple weekends ago.
Good. Good.
So, and it was, I mean, we were trying to do social distancing to the best that we could. So I didn't get to talk to too many of my students there, but I did get to see a few and say hi. And I did talk a lot about Jeopardy that day. So yeah.
That's good. Two more Jeopardy questions, and then I'll just ask you a couple of questions about being a teacher. Are you got any good behind the scenes story, Jeopardy? Now, let me give you, for instance, the only thing I've ever attended that I've been on television was a taping of Price is Right. We went out to California one year and we enjoyed it, but man, it was like the studio was the size of a matchbox. I would assume, just kind of looking at it, Jeopardy's probably a very small studio, isn't it?
It's actually not tiny. So it's
Okay.
in the Sony Studios complex in Culver City.
Okay.
And I think they share a set kind of with Wheel of Fortune.
Okay.
It's at least a building. But yeah, I mean, it probably could hold a couple hundred people in the audience. And at the time we filmed, we actually did have an audience, which was nice. But the room itself is actually the stage itself where the filming is done is actually pretty large. You're not that close to Alex when he's reading the questions. You're probably 10 to 15 feet away at least. And then the big board with all the questions and topics on it is also probably 30 feet away. So it's not tiny. So it's a really cool studio. Yeah. And I not to do much TV stuff ever. So it was definitely a learning experience for me too, to see the process and the behind the scenes stuff. So,
Well, one final question about Jeopardy. What could you say to encourage other teachers to give it a shot sometime, to go through that process? What would be your encouragement, or what would you tell them they should be doing to prepare for it?
I would say the encouragement to do it is that it's a very wholesome, I guess, entertainment. I don't know. I mean, I think if you think a lot about the entertainment industry, there's a lot that isn't so wholesome, but everything about Jeopardy is just very positive. All of the production crew, everybody involved is just so kind and encouraging. The cohort of contestants that I was in, everybody was super nice. And I mean, basically we all made lifelong friends in that, because we're all going to have that shared experience. And we've been meeting via Zoom for weekly trivia and cocktail hours.
Right.
And so, I mean, I feel like that's a pretty good motivation. I mean, it's hard to make friends when you get older. That's one way that you can find friends that you can have forever. As for preparation, I mean, you can't just start preparing like a month before and expect to do well. You have to have a pretty good basis already. And I spent a fair amount of time studying, like in the probably 30 plus hours, and not a bit of it helped. So some of it would have helped. I mean, I learned world flags, so I learned all those, and that would have helped me had I made it to the finals, because they had a world flags category. But really, all of the studying I did didn't help one bit. But I mean, if I ever participate in an open quiz bowl tournament, that maybe it'll help then. So
right. You mentioned that how close you all had gotten as contestants. You could kind of tell that in the show, because it seemed like everybody was very jovial with each other. Normal Jeopardy matches aren't always like that. Now, I will say that the big winners, like Holzhauer, or however you say his name, they all of them, and I've forgotten his name, Jennings. Mm-hmm. They all seem very friendly. Those guys seem friendly too, but it seems like occasionally you'll get somebody that is a little bit different type of personality. So I could tell during the teachers tournament that the teachers really seem to enjoy each other's company. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe we were a special bunch too. I mean, the production crew said that they liked us a lot, and that we were, they said that we were one of the better teachers tournaments, and maybe they say that to everybody, but I mean, everybody was very friendly and very, very kind. And, people listen to you when you talk, and it was a great experience, and I'm very glad I got to do it.
Good. Let me ask just a few questions about your role as teacher specifically. If you had to recommend the best way for a teacher, or a substitute for that matter, to connect with students, what's worked well for you?
I would say being able to for a teacher and a substitute, adaptability and being able to adjust on the go.
Good.
Not necessarily stick to a rigid plan or formula. Because if your students will notice that if something's not working and you're trying to continue with it, they're going to get frustrated. You're going to get frustrated. So I think that everybody appreciates when a teacher has some ability to adapt. I mean, I also think I tell a lot of pretty bad jokes in the classroom, like just dad jokes, corny stuff. So I mean, I think being able to loosen up and I don't know, incorporate some humor, have fun. I think those are some effective methods, perhaps.
I totally agree with that. What do you look for in a substitute when you need one? Do you ever ask your students about the subs they had? Do you go back to the same ones over and over? What do you look for in a substitute?
Well, I do. I have put Mrs. Hawkins to work a few times. I actually don't miss that much school, so
Okay, that's
uh,
good.
um, I, if I didn't have Mrs. Hawkins, I'd probably look for somebody who does have some experience. If there is a former teacher, I would probably get them first. I have some friends who substitute here and there, so I've asked them. And usually, if I know I'm going to miss a day, I try to set up something to where the students are generally independent, and basically the substitute just has to maintain order, which usually isn't a big deal.
Okay.
So I try not to leave a whole lot of like new material for a substitute,
Right.
because especially if you have multiple classes, a substitute trying to pick up in the middle of multiple things, that's not an easy task. So yeah,
That's great. In fact, I think I mentioned this to you. You are the first episode of our second year, and the podcast has gone a lot better than I ever dreamed. I mean, we're at 11,000 downloads, so there wasn't a whole lot of resources out there for substitute teachers. But why don't we close with this? Share with us either your favorite or your funniest student story you can think of since you've been teaching.
Well, I think I need to talk about my 8th period class from last year.
Okay.
It's a regular 12th grade English class, and it was big. It was about the biggest amount you can have. 8th period is, it's kind of a rowdy, everybody's go home at that point. So there just shouldn't be an 8th period, in my opinion. But anyway, we spent a fair amount of time off the curriculum, just having these wide-ranging, just philosophical class discussions. And I don't know, we basically covered every single, we covered just about every single topic you can. But I had one particular student who got it in his head, and, if he goes through with this, by all means, he plans on being a millionaire not long after he graduated. He has graduated now, but not pretty soon. He wants to be a millionaire and a magnate in the storage rental business.
Okay.
So I learned a lot about storage rentals, and just I don't know. I learned a lot about that I never knew was a thing. So yeah, I mean, he more power to him if he goes
absolutely right.
So that was, I mean, we laughed about that all year. So and that might be, you had to be there kind of thing, but that for me, that was a tough class just because of when it was, and the sheer size of it, but it wound up being a lot of fun, and I'll never forget it. So
nice. I love that story. I love what you said about, sharing personal stories and joking around with the students. I think that is so important as well. I've enjoyed talking to you today. You got any closing thoughts you want to share with us?
Well, it's been a pleasure to be on here and talk to you. And I don't know. I'm glad to be a teacher. I'm glad to represent Cookeville High School. I think it's a great school, and I think we have a pretty good community here too. So
right.
So yeah, I don't know. I guess that's probably all I got.
Okay, I totally agree with I've been through Cookeville. That's a nice area. We go to Nashville quite often. Nashville is one of my favorite cities in the country. And, we've been to a lot of SEC basketball tournaments in Nashville. So we love that area. Sam, I really appreciate you being with us today, and we will talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Greg.
All right. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you.
Music provided by Ben Sound.